Was just listening to a audio recording from a channel on here called The Presence of Being, and a few years ago I started doing audio-only recordings just to get my thoughts out, and it was something about this video that I watched just now, literally just now, that inspired me to action and made me realize that a one-person thought recording, almost like a audible diary of sorts, can actually be a really effective format for stripping away a lot of BS and a lot of barriers to the actual idea at the core of any message. And so the message and idea that I felt just downloaded from I don't know where, right? That, I suppose that's one of the mysteries of consciousness, is where do ideas come from? But the idea that I was gifted with or downloaded is this idea that you don't need a credential or a reason to have, well, I should say, you don't need a credential or the approval of anyone else in order to start doing what you want to do, to contribute what you want to contribute. And this is especially true of the digital world, right? The ability to share your ideas, your thoughts, your experiences. It's basically your right to freedom of speech. And with that, I mean, right now all of these platforms are free. And so your ability to communicate is completely independent of any credential, of any, of anybody saying yes or no. As long as you have internet access, you can do so. And it also made me realize that the tendency I see in myself, and I would say any tendency that I see in myself, unfortunately, I initially see in others, and then I turn around and say, wait a second, especially if I'm in a place where I feel judgmental of another person or something else, or envious of another person, it's a sign to myself that I need to introspect and inquire as to why I feel this emotion. And sure enough, I don't know if it's a Carl Jung quote or an idea. What psychoanalyst came upon this idea? I think it was Carl Jung, but it basically, that anytime you see something in somebody else that you don't like, what you're actually seeing is something in yourself that you don't like. And so when I see this tendency in others to credentialize everything and to create hoops for everything that people need to jump through in order to finally become the thing that they aspire to be, I just realized that this is a recipe for putting off into the future what must be done now. And chances are, if you're anything like me, this is something, I think this is something that we all do to some degree, is because of human nature and the way that we aim at the things that we desire and often put into the future the things that we desire. And I suppose the nature of desire is that it's basically a contract with the future, and, right? I mean, anytime you encounter or experience desire, it necessitates that the object of desire is not within your possession, and so it must be, or the focus is then on the future in order to acquire the object of desire, right? So it's sort of this weird paradox where the only way to achieve or to acquire the object of desire is to detach from it and start having presence to move toward it without grasping at it. This is, I think, a more complex idea than I can maybe articulate in what I want to be a short nugget. But I suppose what I'm getting at in terms of credentializing and the core message of what I'm getting at is to assess, for this is again a note to self, whether or not the things that you actually want are within your grasp right now without any credential. And so one of the most obvious to me is content creation. I know for myself, it's like I'm always thinking, oh, I'm going to do that piece of content when, I'm going to start this channel when, and I've started many a channel before and felt like it was not the right fit. It was not, oh, I don't want to, like, I'll start with a surge of motivation, inspiration, and aspiration, and I'll work on a specific channel for 10, 15 videos and then stop. And I think the big reason for that is, again, like looking for a credential in a specific area, in a specific niche. And the answer, I think, has been staring me in the face the whole time, every time I look in the mirror, where actually what needs to happen is, especially in terms of individual development and self-development, it's the answer is to share the things that you are experiencing, your perspective, your informational inputs, and of course your output is your output. But the way that you see the world and the challenges that you're up against, so that people can, in fact, get involved in your story, and then everything becomes it makes a lot more sense as to how things are connected, right? Even if you've got a weird side hobby or something that, is a niche, you can still sort of, it makes sense as far as being part of the larger system that is you, rather than this like isolated orphan node off in the distance. So I suppose all I really wanted to say is to remind myself that no credentials are needed, and it's worth getting your thoughts out as they happen in the formats most appropriate to those thoughts. And so that's what this quick audio note is about, and I'm going to experiment with this format further in the future. Cheers.